Hello there, and welcome to a series that I like to call Throwback Thursdays with Big E. Yeah, so original, I know. So I've been in the mood to share some stories with you guys. So to start the series off, in this video, I'm going to talk about some wonderful memories from my years in elementary school, just a little snippet into my younger years. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So the first story happened while I was in 5th grade. Around Halloween, we were given an assignment to write a story about a haunted house and also design a haunted house paper cutout that our teacher provided us. Now, the way I designed my haunted house, I designed it to match its description in the story. But when I saw everybody else's haunted houses that were hung up in the hallway after the assignment was over, they looked so much better than mine, and I mean so much better. There were some that were very, very detailed. There was one that even had sound effects. That's something that I would not even think of doing myself. And I mean, mine was just simply, it kind of looked boring compared to everybody else's. I mean, mine just had a couple of ghosts, couple of pumpkins, couple of webs, just a couple of everything, and the house was yellow. What haunted house is yellow? I mean, granted, there probably could be some out there, but that's beside the point. And now, before my teacher handed us our assignment, she told us that there would be a haunted house contest. So when the day came to find out the winners, we went out to the hallway. One of the houses that she pointed at was mine. Mine was actually the first one she pointed at. And she asked who designed that house. I raised my hand and said I did it. And she says, "You won first place." What? Me. I won first place, despite the fact that so many other houses were more detailed than mine. I won first place? How the heck did that even happen? I couldn't, I was excited, but at the same time I was more shocked than anything else because I didn't think I was going to win. But when I look back on it, my house was designed based on the story that I wrote. I'm thinking to myself, maybe that's how I won, but then again, I'm not really 100% certain, but a lot of things can happen unexpectedly, am I right? Now, another thing that happened when I was in 5th grade was the kids in my classroom, we would sing a little jingle or just like a little song to our teacher after our lunch period was over. Now, I don't exactly remember how this started or at what point in 5th grade this started, but what I remember was we would rehearse our little jingle that we came up with, whatever it was, and then we would sing it to our teacher when she came back to the classroom after our lunch period was over. I guess for us it was our way of showing how much we appreciated her. I mean, not gonna lie, she actually was one of my favorite teachers from when I was in elementary school, so there's that. And it also was somewhat entertaining as well. Truth be told, I remember a time when our teacher was gone for an extended period of time because she broke her wrists, and when she came back, we went back to our way of singing her a little jingle after our lunch period, and she told us that she really missed those songs. So that alone tells us that this goes to show that even small things can make someone's day. Which brings me to my next memory. Making quilts for the babies in the hospital. Now, in my elementary school, we had this tradition. When you entered 3rd grade, you'd get paired up with the 6th grader and you would make quilts together, and all those quilts would go to the babies in the local hospitals. Now, I remember when I was in 6th grade, this tradition that we had was featured in the news, and most likely it was because of the sheer amount of quilts that were going to be going to the hospitals that year. Why did we have so many? Our enrollment numbers dramatically increased that year because there were 3 other schools that closed down in the area, so a whole influx of students came to our school. But regardless of that, it was a good experience, not only as a good way to serve the community, but also learning how to sew. The next memory I want to share is a little bit random. This happened when I was in 3rd grade. It was at one point where I was the only one who knew how to spell the word doctor. Now, in 3rd grade, at some points during the year, we would have these so-called stations where we just moved from station to station doing whatever activities there were in groups of a few people. And one of the stations was what I call the spelling station. And the way that worked is the teacher would tell us to spell a word, and the first person who would spell the word correctly would get a piece of candy. Now, when it was my group's turn for the spelling station, one of the words that the teacher asked us to spell was the word doctor. The few people before me kept spelling doctor with either AR or ER. And when it was my turn, I knew it wasn't AR or ER, but eventually I said OR? Like, not gonna lie, I didn't sound 100% confident, probably because at that moment in time, I didn't know if that was the correct way. All I just knew it was an AR or ER. I had no idea. But turns out I was right. I got a piece of candy. Not gonna lie, I also remember during that particular day, I was the one who happened to get the most candy in that group. Mostly because of sheer luck, and it kind of helped knowing how to spell words as well, but I don't know what to think about that, to be honest. Now moving on from 3rd grade into 6th, or back into 6th grade, but I don't know, all these memories, they're all coming out at random times throughout all my years in elementary school. But anyway, when I was in 6th grade, one of our bigger projects that we had to do was for the science fair at our school. And I chose to do my projects on electromagnets, which include making a mini version of one. Now, after the fair was over and my teacher looked at everybody's project and graded all of theirs, she selected a few students whose projects would be great to participate in the E3 fair. And one of those students that she selected was me. However, due to nerves, I chose to tell my teacher that I wasn't going to attend the E3 fair, and eventually it was something that I regretted later on, but oh well, at least I got some recognition from my teacher. That's a good thing, right? And speaking of recognition, this leads me to another interesting memory. Going back to 5th grade, at the beginning of the year, we were told about a year-long assignment, writing journal entries. We were given a list of the weeks during the school year, and each topic, or a list of topics that would go under each corresponding week, and we had to pick 2 topics to write each week. Now, here's the thing. I was a terrible writer back in the day. But like, grammatically, I actually could write fairly well, but when it came to putting ideas together, it would make sense in my head, but if somebody else were to read what I wrote, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to them. So, as a result, that was something that my parents always needed to help me out with it. And while I did appreciate their help, there was a part of me that just wished I could have a little bit of independence. I wanted to be able to do this, or at least to be able to do something more on my own where I really didn't need as much help. So that's when I came up with the idea of writing my journal entries in poems.
Yes, I said poems.
The way I saw it, writing in poems would allow me to write down what I needed to talk about for that week, using less words, while also meeting the length requirement at the same time. And in the end, it actually paid off because My teacher told me that she wanted to have my journals be one of the journals to act as a visual aid for the next year's incoming 5th graders for when they have to do their journal entries. And not gonna lie, as someone who was terrible at writing, this was a pretty cool thing, to say the least. Moving on to another story that happened when I was in 5th grade. There was one day we were playing a game of kickball outside for gym class. And I remember that day our gym teacher told us before we started the game for no one to be in La La Land, especially when you were out in the field. Because, I mean, not gonna lie, if you're in La La Land and you're not paying attention, you could get in the head with a ball. So when I was out in the field, I was probably looking down for maybe 3 to 5 seconds, but that was during a time when nothing exactly was happening, and one of my teammates looks at me and says, Emily's in La La Land, and I'm like thinking to myself, what the heck? As soon as I heard my name, I just instantly perked up as like, don't worry, I'm paying attention, jeez. Now, one of my other teammates, she heard him say that I was in La La Land. She didn't exactly see that I was looking down for those 3 to 5 seconds. Regardless of that, she saw that I was paying attention, so she shouted back at him, "She's not in La La Land!" Man, I think that was the first time I could ever remember anyone defending me like that. And of course, I did thank her for defending me. Let me say, that girl and I, we're still good friends to this day. Now, of course, telling that kickball story reminded me of another memory that happened in 6th grade while also playing a game of kickball. But before I get into that story, to give you a little bit of context, and this is actually relevant to the story, but back in the day, I had long hair. And I mean long. And my hair was also in braids every single day. Literally, every single day. So to start the story off, I was already on third base and I was waiting for my next teammate in line to kick the ball so I could run to home base. Now, my teammate kicks the ball. It was a good kick that would allow me to be able to run to home base without any one of us getting out. However, I could see out of the corner of my eye, one of the opposing team members got their hands on the ball and was going to throw it at me to get me out, to prevent me from going to home base and getting the point for my team. But when he throws the ball at me, the ball missed me by a hair, and I mean literally by a hair. The ball hit my braid, but it did not hit me. So I was able to get the point for my team. Thank goodness. Going back to my story in 5th grade when I said that I needed help with my writing from my parents, there was also a time when I actually needed help from the school. And here is the thing. Anyone who knew me from back in the day knew that I was a good student. I got good grades, but that doesn't mean I didn't struggle with something. The thing that I actually needed help with the most was reading. Now, when I say reading, I mean reading comprehension, basic analytical skills when it comes to reading stories, you know, all that fun stuff, which back then I sucked at. Like, if you were to give me questions about a story, I would not be able to answer that for you. It's like, even if I tried to find the information in the story, I would not be able to find it. I struggled with that. So in 4th grade, that's when I started getting the help that I needed. Whenever we did the reading unit for the day, my teacher would get a call from the school tutor, and that's when I would leave the classroom, go to the tutor, and she would give me some one-on-one help with my work. Now, sometimes I was a little bit behind for my class, sometimes I was a little bit ahead, but regardless of that, my teacher knew that I was getting the help I needed, and that's really all that mattered. Just to her, as long as I was getting my work done, that's what mattered the most. And this happened throughout 5th grade as well. But after 5th grade, I no longer needed that help. I was able to do well enough on my own. Now, that doesn't mean I never struggled from that day on. Because I did continue to struggle with those things. But thankfully, I was better at all this reading comprehension stuff. So it was easier for me. Thank goodness. So the last thing I want to talk about is all of the field trips that we had while I was in Girl Scouts. And being in Girl Scouts, we had a lot of fun adventures back in the day. I remember making pizza and pepperoni bread. I remember having sleepovers at museums. I remember going on a cave tour. And of course, doing a bunch of activities to get our badges. But there were some things with that I learned how to do, like kayaking, ice skating, the very basics of gymnastics, all those things. Now, I remember that the very last field trip we had as a troop was going whitewater rafting at a state park. Man, that was a fun experience. Except for the time when my boat got stuck on top of a rock and we could not get off of it. I mean, thankfully, we got help. But that goes to show that you really need to pay attention to what's in front of you, or else you never know what's going to happen. But then again, the rock was underwater and we couldn't see it. We just happened to be going over it and we thought we could get over it completely, but instead we got stuck. Man, what a day! Anyways, that's all the stories I have to tell for the day. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoy them and getting to know what things were like for me back when I was a smaller child. Stay tuned for the next episode of Throwback Thursdays, and more videos like this will be coming because I always have a story to tell. And until next time, bye!